Today, I want to show you the proof of 10.4 billion AMC synthetics. In one of my previous videos, I'd received some criticism that the sample size I'd used was too small, only around 12 people. So AMC MOASS has held a shareholder poll that currently has over 4,000 votes so far. I want to use this significantly larger sample size to prove the number of AMC synthetics is off the charts. So stay tuned and let's make some money. And now I'll dive straight in with the key information. So, AMC MOASS tweeted saying I was asked multiple times to include bigger brackets for the number of shares retail own. So let's do this again. How many shares of AMC do you own? So the brackets or range of shares he's used is 100 to 1,000 shares, 1,000 to 5,000, 5,000 to 10,000, and 10,000 to 50,000. They may say, hang on a second, Tom, what about the people that hold less than 100 shares? Have they not voted at all, or have they voted incorrectly? I'm going to do something later in this video at the calculation stage that removes that bias and still proves the AMC float is held multiple times over. So here we've obviously got our number of AMC shareholders, which is 3.8 million individual retail investors. If you multiply that by the percentages from this poll, 31%, 38%, 14%, and 16%, you get these number of shareholders holding these number of shares. And then again, for calculation purposes, let's take the very bottom of the bracket. So for the people that hold between 100 and 1,000 shares, let's not assume they're holding all 1,000 shares, but let's only assume they're simply holding just 100 shares. And again, the exact same as we increase our way up the brackets. Instead of assuming they hold 5,000, 10,000, and 50,000 shares per person, let's just assume they hold 1,000, 5,000, and 10,000 shares. When you multiply that out, you get 117 million shares held by the smaller apes, 1.4 billion shares held by medium-sized apes, 2.7 billion shares held by slightly larger apes, and 6.1 billion shares held by the largest apes. And obviously totaling all of that up means there's around 10.4 billion AMC shares in total, which obviously suggests the float is potentially sold 20 times over. Not just suggesting there's at least 2 billion synthetics, but around 10 billion. Now obviously there may be people that hold less than 100 shares or hold no shares at all that voted incorrectly just to see the results of the poll. Maybe they voted saying they held 100 to 1,000 shares and just creeped in past that 100 even though they held less, or maybe they outright lied and said they held between 10,000 and 50,000 shares. But obviously, even if we entirely delete these two groups of shareholders, we can still see that 1.5 billion shares and 2.7 billion shares still suggests around 4.1 billion AMC shares in total. Now again, you may say, Tom, what if people included both their AMC and ape shares together instead of just the AMC shares? Well, even if we divide this figure by 2 for everyone that double counted their shares, that's still at least 2 billion shares held by AMC retail investors. So really, whichever way you look at it, if you divide the shares by 2 for people accidentally including both AMC and ape and remove the minimum and maximum votes for people that voted incorrectly, the float is still held multiple times over. And on top of that, the French AMC ape has noted something really interesting with the AMC chart. He tweeted saying, spotted months ago, AMC is about to make a move that nobody can imagine. The 1348 moving average is about to cross in just a few weeks' time. He said we could see a fake dump before to let some shorts cover, but what happens next will be epic. Also, just a quick one, you can currently get a guaranteed free share of Tesla or of Google and a $100 cash reward with Moomoo. All you need to do is sign up using the link in the description below and make a qualifying deposit. And you could always use those guaranteed free shares to buy more shares of AMC, GameStop or of Ape if you so wanted to. If you wanted that $100 cash reward and 5 free stocks on top of that, all you need to do is make a $100 deposit. If you want more free stocks and guaranteed free shares of Tesla and of Google, just make the required qualifying deposit. It might be a bit hard to see on the screen, but you've got 2 moving average lines laid on top of the AMC chart. Obviously the AMC chart is in black ink and you've got the 13 and 48 lines in this faint green and this purpley colour as well. The only time in the last 5 years where this 1348 moving average line has crossed upwards was back in January of 2021. That was obviously when we had that original run to around $20 per share, which then cooled off for a few months before the run up to $72 back in June of 2021. Ever since then, the moving average line crossed back downwards, but has never since crossed back upwards, not in the last 5 years. But this moving average line is now trending back upwards and will soon cross in the next few weeks, which suggests another massive increase in the AMC share price. As Joshua Sky tweeted, he said they thought they could barcode AMC, Ape and GameStop to control the stock price, and effectively they were sure we'd get bored and sell. The only problem is this would have worked back in the 1990s, but unfortunately for them it's 2023 and there's social media everywhere. He believes that nobody is selling and nobody is leaving ever until the squeeze. And in other words, the criminals, the short sellers and the market makers are indeed ducked. Now again, I wouldn't usually give daily updates on the New York Stock Exchange's threshold securities list, but I've noticed something again really interesting with that AMC cost to borrow. So again, for the third day in a row, AMC is back on that NYSE threshold securities list on the 27th of June. Now you may remember on Monday that cost to borrow fee for AMC was around 200%. Yesterday that increased up to around 400%, but today, this morning, that's doubled once again up to 856%. We've got a cost to borrow maximum of 856%, a cost to borrow average of 668%, and a cost to borrow minimum of 370% as well. If this AMC cost to borrow fee continues to double every single day or continues to increase by 200 percentage points every single day, it won't be long until the shorts are severely underwater. In just 2 weeks or in just 10 trading days, that would be another at least 2,000% added on to the AMC cost to borrow fee. And it wouldn't be long after that until we start seeing 5,000% or 10,000%. And obviously seeing 10,000% would be 100 times the entire shorts position charged as an annual fee. That means they'd be paying 100% of their entire short position in just borrowing fees every 3 trading days. That's why Travis has tweeted saying there is way more naked shorts on AMC than there is ape shares to go around to do an arbitrage strategy for the shorts to exit their short positions. Basically saying that shorts can't buy ape shares to close out of their AMC shorts on conversion when the shares net off, because there's only 1 billion ape shares in circulation when there's around 2 billion to 10 billion AMC shares total. This is obviously why the shorts are stuck and can't close out of their short positions, because there's way more synthetic AMC shares in existence than there is available shares to buy, or even of ape shares to buy instead. If they try to use those ape shares as a like-for-like security to close out of their AMC short position, or just wait until conversion, that'll only take them so far, because there's significantly more AMC synthetics than there is ape shares. And especially because on top of that, the majority of retail investors haven't sold any of the ape shares they received, and therefore we're still holding the majority of the ape flow, other than the additional shares that have been sold to those institutional investors. But again, there's obviously many apes out there that have also bought more ape shares on top of their AMC shares because the ape shares were cheaper, and therefore it's likely we still hold the majority of the ape float as well, and therefore shorts can't even get their hands on those shares either. And that is why HSBC is warning a US recession is coming this year. They know the market will crash as a result of the squeeze, and they're expecting it to happen in 2023. And they're also expecting Europe to slip into a recession the following year in 2024. It said in its mid-year outlook, the British banking giant's asset manager said recession warnings are flashing red for many economies, while fiscal and monetary policies are out of sync with stock and bond markets. They've said the US will enter a downturn in the fourth quarter, followed by a year of contraction, and a European recession as well in 2024. They've said we're already in a mild profit recession, and corporate defaults have also started to creep up too. And they've said we think the incoming news flow over the next 6 months could be tough to digest for a market that's pricing a soft landing. And that is why Crystal POS tweeted as a public announcement to all the shills, bots and mainstream media. He said, "I'm good with my financial risk." He said, "I'm appreciative of you looking out for my money and thank you for caring. But I did my research and due diligence, and he's very comfortable with his investment in AMC. As the UK ape said, it's so touching they care about our money and try to convince us to sell during their daily lives when they're not spending time working or spending time on their businesses. They're effectively losing out on thousands, if not tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars each and every year by trying instead to convince you to sell out of, I guess, the goodness of their hearts. Or obviously it's likely because they're paid off and they're trying to spread FUD convincing you to sell because there's a massive problem for these hedge funds. But guys, be sure to let me know what you think down in the comments below. And as always guys, be sure to ding that notification bell because that way you'll be alerted when I upload a new video. Cheers.